Court officer, can you please summarize the details of the court case?
On December 22nd at 4 p.m., two robbers entered Mr. Nesbitt's drugstore with the intent to steal money and cigarettes. Mr. Nesbitt pulled a gun and a fight ensued. One of the robbers wrestled the gun out of Mr. Nesbitt's hand and shot him in the chest before both robbers fled the store. Two other men participated in the robbery, one as a lookout and one acting as a hindrance to police. Two of the men have pled guilty and accepted plea bargains. The alleged lookout is Steve Harmon, on trial for felony murder.
Thank you. The prosecutor may proceed with their closing statements.
Thank you, Judge. I would first like to thank the jury for their attention during this long, tedious trial. Every American is given the rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Mr. Nesbitt's peace and freedom were disturbed, so those who broke the law should be fairly punished. Through the testimonies of many reliable witnesses, the prosecution has decided that Steve Harmon approached the store, looked inside, and gave the signal that no one was inside. That is when the robbery took place, and that was when Mr. Nesbitt was murdered. Mr. Harmon is just as guilty as the men who robbed the store. He played a pivotal role in carrying out the robbery by determining whether anyone was inside the store that could interfere with the burglary. His participation led to Mr. Nesbitt's death. Mr. Harmon wants us to look at him as a good high school student, an aspiring filmmaker. He wants you to think, jury, that because he wasn't in the store when the robbery took place, he's innocent. Maybe Mr. Harmon tried to convince himself that he wasn't guilty. But yes, Mr. Harmon is guilty, and he should be punished. Whether he pulled the trigger or not, he took part in that robbery to get his cut of money and cigarettes. Mr. Harmon's eager willingness to take part led to the death of a well-respected neighborhood man, one who sponsored Little League teams. None of us can bring back Mr. Nesbitt, but you jury members representing our state can bring the killers to justice. And that's all I ask of you. Bring forth that justice. Thank you.
Defense attorney, you may now make your closing statements.
Thank you, Judge. I too would like to thank the jury for their patience during this trial. The prosecution presents the idea that Steve Harmon acted as a lookout for the robbers. They brought a witness to the stand who testified she was in the drugstore before the robbery took place and escaped before the violence escalated. Had someone actually been assigned the task of lookout, they didn't do a very good job making sure no one was in the drugstore. An admitted robber testified that Mr. Harmon was supposed to come out of the drugstore and give them a signal. But when asked what that signal was, the robber said that Mr. Harmon never gave them a signal. Instead, the robber assumed it was all clear. Now, the robbers allegedly went to get something to eat after the murder took place. But where was Mr. Harmon? He never went with them to go get some dinner. He never even spoke to them. I'd also like to touch on the character of Steve Harmon. He is an aspiring filmmaker and a respectful young man, which you saw when he testified. His teacher spoke highly of him, saying he was honest and had good morals. It is up to you, the jury, to prosecute criminals. It is also up to you to acquit innocent people when guilt has not been proven. There is no doubt in my mind that Mr. Harmon is innocent. That's why I ask you, the jury, to closely examine the evidence presented in this case over this past week. If you do, I am sure you'll find a verdict of not guilty. It's the right thing to do. Thank you.
Thank you. The jury will now decide if Steve Harmon is guilty of felony murder. We will reconvene once the decision is made. Thank you for your time and effort on this long trial. The jury may now read your verdict.
On the charge of felony murder, we find Steve Harmon